What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Boom! Another Sunday, another episode of How to Podcast. I'm breaking down the different versions of the Inspired Disorder podcast, different evolutions that studio went through. I am at the part where I left the USB microphone, wanted to upgrade things, I was going in a direction with the podcast. I wanted to do everything live to tape, so that as far as post, all the editing that I would have to do, like the editing that I do now, the style of production that I do now relies a lot on editing in post, whereas the advantage of doing it all live to tape means that when you broadcast live to Ustream at the time, but now YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, there's a lot of different platforms you can broadcast live to now. So I wanted to improve that live broadcast element. But also, while broadcasting live, I'm also capturing that video to release immediately after I'm done recording. So that's why I was able to turn around the episode so fast, was that everything was done live to tape, so that the video file that I was done, I just uploaded to YouTube and I was done with it. And the audio of the podcast was being recorded live also. So I just had to trim the ends, basically, and upload it. So super easy. That's how it was initially designed when the Inspired Disorder podcast was growing. But having the mixer is really good if you're doing an actual studio setup where you're going to have multiple people in local on different mics. That way you can control the levels for each individual mic. When you first get your mixer, I recommend taking the time to set it up properly, taking time to make sure the levels are adjusted, make sure all the knobs are put to their ideal levels, like the gain and pitch, and not pitch, but there's a lot of different things on these mixers to make your audio sound really good. If you're not using like a H4n or H6, H6 allows you to independently adjust audio levels, but doesn't necessarily allow for the amount that you can do with an actual mixer, like being able to hook up instruments if you want to do that. Hook up computers if you want to use a computer as like your Skype guest. You can plug the audio inputs into your mixer to get that audio in. It mixes the audio super well, so if you're doing Skype or any of those things, it blends the audio really well. Also, if you want to I use my iPad for the intro, outro music, and sound effects. So I had my iPad that I could just kind of like Red Band does for Kill Tony, where I'd have all the audio cues on that and play them as we go live. So it opens up, gives you better quality audio. You're hooking up good quality mics to it. Make sure you get everything adjusted and all the levels set. If you have a mic that you have different guests on each week, try to get those levels set before you start recording. Or when you start, while you're doing the introductions, pay attention to the audio level for that mic, because for everybody else that uses the mic every week, you're pretty much going to have to set it and forget it. Make sure you get everything set right the first time, and you don't have to worry about playing around with it. Just don't touch it. But if you have a mic where you're, adjusting, make sure you do a little sound check before you start, because the last thing you want is anything to go bad, or have something on mute by accident. But having that mixer allows you to do those things live and on the fly. Also, there's software that I was using called Wirecast, which you have to pay for, but it allows you to broadcast live to all of those different platforms that I mentioned: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, has all the current ones available. So it allows you to broadcast to all those simultaneously. You can just do one. It allows you to record stuff. It allows you to do separate camera angles. So all of those capabilities I would plug into Wirecast so that the video eventually would get to where it got in the next episode, which I'll talk about when I added video to everything. But having the audio mixer really helped. At that time, basically, I wasn't able to record my guest video yet. So the people I had on Skype, whether it be my co-host Justin or Keith, I wasn't getting their video, so I'd usually just have a still image of them or our guest, and then I would have my video along with the mixer and that audio. But video, when I was able to get their video, that's when things changed, and that I didn't get to didn't come till actually I think the mixer is what allowed me to do that, because I was able to finally get a second computer that was the Skype. And then with Wirecast, they have a thing where you can share a desktop. So from that laptop that Skype ran on, I was able to grab that video and then overlay it over my video on Wirecast. And then, so it was basically the most modern version. And then that kind of setup was pushed to the limits for the 24-hour podcast, where we had multiple people calling in live on Skype. It was being broadcast live on Ustream 24 hours straight. The first episode, like halfway through, there were issues with Skype, and there were tons of issues with Ustream where there was audio issues, and it's just we were pushing all this shit to the limits. Didn't know if it could be done, so we're like, fuck it, let's try it. But having that mixer soundboard allows you to do a lot of things. If you want to set up a legit studio, you're gonna 100% want a mixer, and then your mixer, you're gonna output that, either record it straight to your computer, which is what I did, recorded it straight into GarageBand. I had a second recording backup on a different computer going to Audacity, so I had backups recorded. You can also use an H4n as your recording device from your mixer, from your soundboard if you want, which is something I think I have a small soundboard I might start using that with, or I still have my main soundboard. It's just kind of ridiculous for this show. But it's going to open you up. That's what a soundboard's going to open you up to do. And it's a great tool that you can use for a lot of different things. If you have any questions about podcasting or setting up podcasts, there's a million ways to set up your podcast depending on what your production needs are, depending on what your show is. So if you know specifically what your show is going to be and you have specific questions about things, feel free to hit me up either in the comments or DMs on Instagram at Ray Taylor. I don't check Twitter or Facebook, so Instagram is your best way of getting a hold of me. So do that at Ray Taylor. You can go to my website, inspireddisorder.com. That's where you can buy all of my work, my artwork, and prints, shirts. I'm adding a bunch of stuff for the holidays, so look forward to that. And look forward to special discounts if you are a listener or viewer of this show. But look forward to all of those things. Holidays are coming up, and hopefully you can spend some of your hard-earned money on some of the work that I've been putting together over the past year. So with all of that said, that's it for this episode of How to Podcast, Inspired Disorder, Mixer. Have a great day. Have a great week. Peace out.